All right, here we go. This is our seminar for this week, how our best communities to flip properties in Calgary. We do this seminar once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending on how the market is. But we wanted to do it this time because our flippers out there in the market right now are making incredible profits. We're going to give you some examples as we go through the seminar, and we're going to showcase what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. My name's Azad Chandler.
And I'm Tim Desita.
Investing in real estate, you always want to try and use the bank's money. We only have so much of it. So, and we're just talking before the session tonight that in the room here that, you know what, that's all real estate really is about, is using the funds you've got to buy as many properties as you can. And doing it smartly, making sure that the property is cash flowing, making sure on tonight's discussion, like if you're flipping homes, that it's profitable. We see people get called out time and time again, and we're going to discuss some of those reasons tonight. But we're in it to make money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So this seminar, best communities to flip properties in. First of all, what we have to ask everybody is flipping for you? We have tons and tons of clients that come to us and say, you know, we saw this great video online, or, you know, we were talking to somebody who did a flip and they made a ton of money. Well, you need to ask yourself certain things before you even start. And then you have to educate yourself on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So the first thing is finding out how much it's going to cost to finance the project. Okay. The easiest way and the cheapest way to flip a property is to move into it yourself. And the number one reason is because you can put 5% down. Okay. And we advise people that are getting into flipping, and if it's going to be end up being, you know, say a suited property, you could go in and renovate a portion at a time. I know for myself, Tim, when I bought my house on the west side, it's an older property. And I knew over time, and that's what we need to stress. Like, some people are here tonight, and we work with a lot of clients that, Tim, they're on a time crunch and they want to do this, or they do this as their job. So there's two different ways to flip homes, and we want to get that out to you guys. Is the safest way to flip is by letting the market do its thing, like it's doing right now, which creates more equity and gives you more of a buffer, or you know, you can go all out and try to do it within 2 to 3 months, which we're going to go over tonight. So it all depends where you're at. But if you've never done this before, we always stress that moving into a property and renovating it while you live there is going to save you on that stress of paying that extra mortgage on top of where you're living already. So if you've never done it before, we always advise that if you could move into it, pick a room at a time, or pick one level at a time, put a suite in, and take your time with it, then the mistakes can be, you know, limited.
Yeah. And when it comes to mistakes, you have a budget, you have to stick to that budget. Of course, you're going to have a little bit of error either way, 5 or 10%, but sticking to your budget as much as possible keeps your profit safe at the end of the project. And what you got to do before you even enter into this is educate yourself on the styles of today. And what we always tell our clients to do is get out there, go look at some show homes, go see what the builders are building right now, because those trends, those colors, those palettes, the tile choices, the flooring choices, that's what the customers are going to want. These home builders do a lot of research, and they trade off they grab a lot of information from other markets. They know what the customer is going to want to buy. So if you educate yourself on those colors, the things that are going to be in the house, you'll be ahead of the game already, because you know what you have to go out and buy once you decide on a property, and you figure out the square footage, and you got to buy a certain amount of baseboards, buy paint for a certain amount of square footage, and buy flooring. And another thing, we're going to get into this as well further on, but if say one gray type of high-end hardwood is in, well, if you can put the same type of, say, vinyl plank that looks the same, feels the same, but it's half the cost, you're going to incorporate that into your rental.
Yeah, and the key is, as investors, is to go find these products at a discount, and there's places to go find it. I know Lowe's and Home Depot, and there's other stores around town. There's different prices for everything, and our job is to make it look attractive. And the best way to do that is just to go on MLS and search, depending what you're renovating. But a lot of the renovations these days, Tim, we see the same renovation all over. These days, opening up, if you buy, say, a bungalow, we know there's older bungalows, and we're going to talk about the types of properties we like, but we know that when they were built back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they're all closed in. So going in there and opening the rooms up definitely makes sense, because no one wants to live like that anymore. But there's ways to save money. Like, we've had investors, Landon in Glendale, he actually put up a beam himself. I couldn't believe we were there when he was doing it, but he put up a beam. Instead of spending $17,000 to put a beam through the ceiling, he managed to do it for like under $6,000, just because he knew how to do it. There's no way I would be doing anything like that, but there's different ways to support a ceiling like that, where you could open up a wall, but keep posts on either side of an island. And that could save you serious money if you're not putting up a beam yourself. So little things like that. But what we're getting to, I guess, is you should be bringing something to the table. We always stress this. It doesn't matter if it's just the demo work or painting. You should be bringing something to the table. And we see the investors that hire everything out. It really can weigh in on the profit at the end of the day. So we have to stress that bringing something to the table. I mean, this young guy in this picture here, his name's Connor. He's got a full-time job. No kids, so yeah, he could do the work, but he got in there, Tim, and he was doing flooring himself.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if he knew how to lay floor, like it was just vinyl plank, but still.
We watched a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah, I guess everything's on YouTube, and you can watch that. But doing some of the work yourself, I know even painting a main floor, even a 800 square foot apartment, it could range from $3,000 to $4,000 today. So. And painting, that's one of the cheapest ways you could save money, by buying the paint. And
and at the very least, be your own general contractor. We've had some guys try to, like, as I said, contract everything out. So they're really, really hands off. So you're paying all the trades, you're paying, for the demo and removal of all the old stuff, you're paying a general contractor to direct all of this. You're paying interest on your mortgage, you're paying interest on the money borrowed to do the project. When you do all of that and all that money's outgoing, there's very little profit at the end for you. And we've had people, break even and lose money because they didn't even, take the time to look after their project.
Yeah. And then it comes down to choosing the right contractors. I know for our clients, they get to use our contractors. We just finished up a project in Mackenzie Town. We just got the pictures today, and we didn't even know this was going to be possible. We bought, you can actually see the property on our YouTube channel. We bought a half duplex in Mackenzie Town, where the back door, when you entered the back door, you had like a little closet, not even a closet, a little opening to hang jackets and stuff like that, and shoes. And then behind that was a two-piece bathroom. So, and then behind the two-piece bathroom was the staircase going down. And we had a client that wanted to legalize a suite downstairs, and it was unfinished. And we're like, geez, well, the staircase is in the middle. How are we going to do this? And at the end of the day, we ripped out, coming from the back door, ripped out the closet, took away a two-piece bathroom, took away the stairs, and put a new staircase going straight down. And it was a $60,000 reno. Our contractors did all of the work, came in on the exact amount they quoted for, and that's key, that you work with someone that comes in with the price they're telling you, because I've even been burnt over the years using other contractors, and then putting in a full basement suite and legalizing it. And that property was bought for $420,000 last year. And the suite cost $60,000 to put in. And Tim and I were just working out roughly the value on that property, and it would be around 550, 560. So, and that's in this market. Like, It's just a small half duplex in Mackenzie Town.
No garage.
No garage, nothing special. We bought it because we know the C train's going to be coming down that way, going down that way. And now this property is cash flowing and it's got a legal swing in it. So choosing the right contractor is key, when getting into flipping.
So we'll jump right into it. One of the first things you need to do is good credit. You got to make sure that your credit score stays, above at least 700. You're going to need to borrow money. You're going to need to borrow money for the mortgage. And you're going to need to borrow money for the renovation project. Not a lot of people are sitting around with a whole bunch of cash in their pocket and they're going to use that cash to renovate. So using someone else's money, the banks, a partner, a hard money lender, use someone else's money to do your project. You have to make sure that your credit is good. So when you're going to borrow it, you don't get declined.
Yeah, and one thing with the mortgage is you have to work with a good mortgage broker that understands you are flipping this property out. So there are ways to limit the amount of fees you are putting in with that mortgage when you break it. One way is to port that mortgage onto another property, so you're not actually breaking that mortgage. Another way up front is to put 20% down, because then there's no CMHC fees. If you put 5% down, what you have to understand is those fees will eat up some of your profit. Okay, so there's a few things to look at when you are getting that mortgage. And then, are we talking about hard money right now or a bit later?
Bit later.
Bit later. So there are different ways to get more money, but then you really have to understand what you're getting into. But getting back to having good credit, you actually have to have enough money for the deposit. Then you have to have enough money for the renovation, and then you have to have enough money for the carrying costs of the property. If it's 2-month reno, average days on market right now are 21 days, so call it 30 days. So realistically, you get your property, you really want to use that conditional period or the period before you get the keys to the property to go in and do all of your quotes. So when we're doing a flip, we go in there, we take all the measurements, we work out exactly what we're doing. We're actually up in Marlborough last week with a client that's going in and renovating, and we already took all the contractors in there, and conditions already been waived, so we already knew after the conditional period. So it's key if you're working with another realtor that they understand that they need access and it needs to be in the contract, because the seller doesn't have to let you in if it's not in the contract, to get back into the property to take all of these estimates.
Yes.
So once that's done, then on possession day, it should be
You should be driving that bin right out front and starting the demo on possession day.
And just quickly, Tim, getting back to we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so that leads to the next requirement, plenty of cash. Now, we're not saying that you have to have all the cash for everything up front. If you're borrowing the money, or if you're using one of those Home Depot loans where it's interest-free for 18 months, that's the cash that you need to use to fund your reno. And you need to make sure that you have enough of it, because we've seen, I know we're going to talk about this later, but we've seen so many people renovate a property up to 90%, and then they run out of cash and they have to sell it. That really limits your pool of buyers, because some people want it done. They want it, if they're buying a newly renovated house, they want it all done. Right?
Yeah, you can tell when you go into a project that's been, 95% done, it really turns off the buyer. Like, we see it personally when we take them in there. They're expecting, well, you're expecting to get top dollar, so they're expecting to get, a top property. But at the end of the day, it does take cash. And as Tim said, that is key. Finding the money elsewhere. We've got renovators that will use, when you do sign up for Home Depot, you can get a $40,000 limit. It's interest-free for 18-month period. Plus, if you're using mortgage plus improvements, and then other ways are using equity in your home, you could use those funds. It would still be cheaper, Tim, to use that. And then once again, you can get a line of credit to fund your renovations. But you have to calculate everything out. And you want to get to a stage where you've renovated a few properties and you know what, you really don't have to borrow for the renovation costs. That's really the ultimate goal, is to get to that stage.
Yeah, if you're using the proceeds of one sale to fund the next project and you can keep rolling that over, then you're saving yourself interest costs all over the board.
Yeah, and then you want to pick the same style, like, you know, right now, what other styles? Stainless steel appliances are still in. I mean, and you don't have to go high end, like just talking about appliances, there's crazy appliances out there. There's fridges with TVs now, right? You don't need that unless it's, you know, $800,000-900,000 property. Some people, you know, getting back to the types of renovations, we're always after a wow factor, okay? And this is the key to renovating any home. I mean, some communities, Tim, it's just a wow being in that community, so that will sell the property itself. But if the property had a view, that has potential for someone paying extra amount of money for the property just because they want to live there because of that view. Or there's some factors in, you know, if we take a little condo, what could you do to a condo? You know, you could have a home theater package in there with a nice TV. You could splurge on maybe one of those Samsung TVs, and I think it's called the Frame, or I don't know what it's called. But, you know, those things aren't a lot of money anymore. You could put in quartz, you could put in, as Tim's saying, vinyl plank. That's good enough for making a condo look really good. The baseboards these days, I don't know how many inches it would be, Tim. Would it be 4 or 5
As
inches?
long as you're consistent, you don't have to go with any particular size. It just has to have that clean look all the way around the house. And you'll see it in some of the pictures that we have of examples coming up, that when these guys are renovating, as I said it earlier, they kind of all look the same, you know, light colored walls, light colored flooring. The kitchens are all generally the same, but that's what the customer wants. That's what people who want to buy a house that's renovated, they want to move into an older neighborhood, but live in a house that has today's features in it. They don't want to live in grandma's house. So if you can renovate it to that level, you know, they want to live there and they will pay the price for it.
Yeah, so where we see people go wrong with renovations is doing something crazy, okay? You really got to appeal to the masses.
Yeah.
And right now, you know, keeping it simple. And there are new trends right now. Like I know a lot of neutral colors are coming in. There's wallpaper I see in two-piece washrooms. So then, you know, the powder room is a feature alone. There's different things I've seen. I don't even know what you call it, like wood strips on different walls and different paneling. Like paneling is come back, or wainscoting's come back. So you really have to work out what type of property, what kind of feel you want. And then if you're getting into this for a business, we always say repeat it. Like if you're choosing, you know, quartz and you've got, you know, I use Granite Works, they're up on Deerfoot Trail. If they're a good company and they worked out, you just keep repeating what you've done. And we've got some great stories. We've got one lady, her name's Lori. She was a single parent, single mother. And she renovated her own homes over the years. We bought a number and sold a number for her. She did it tax-free. And she got to the stage where she's buying properties with cash. So, and this is a single mother that worked for one of the big insurance brokers in town. I forget who she worked for, but you know what, had a full-time job, moved into the property, was a single mother, and did the same renovation in each property. And at the end, you know, at the end of all of it, she's not doing one right now. She doesn't have to.
But she eventually got to her dream home.
Yeah.
She stopped. She's in the house that, you know, it was 1.1 or something. She just moved right in and that's where she wants to stay.
Yeah. So you know what? Can it happen? I mean, it depends what kind of renovator do you want to be? Do you want to do this full time, or do you want to be someone like Lori? You know, delaying gratification sometimes, letting the market do its thing. We're seeing ridiculous prices right now, and it's going to continue from what we can see. And people out there, there's not enough of these renovated properties. We know, and we'll just quickly talk about the Trudeau government, Tim, wanting to tax renovators.
Well, that's not just that government. The BC government is talking about it too, putting a 20% tax on home renovators' profits. We find that that's just ludicrous, because these people we think are providing a service to people who want to live in the older neighborhoods, you know, with the trees and the established schools and playgrounds. They want to live in these communities, but they don't want to go in and do all this work themselves. They just want to buy a house. And short of, you know, tearing the house down and having a builder come in and build them a new one, this is actually more affordable for them. They may be paying $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for a renovated bungalow. But if they were to buy a lot, tear it down and put a brand new house on there, they're well over $1 million. So it's more cost effective for the buyers and they're providing a service.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay,
Okay, so the next one,
I think there's a question.
someone's got a renovation coming up and they put a picture in there.
Okay, hopefully you use
That's
up
good.
and sell it. We'll see.
Okay, the next requirement, great location. We're gonna spend a bit of time talking about the neighborhoods. That's the title of the seminar. The neighborhoods to do renovations in the city. Great location means more than just a neighborhood. There's also specific places within each neighborhood to buy and to stay away from,
Mhm.
right? We've given tons of examples over the years. One of the best ones was someone came to us, they had, you know, bought 2 properties and renovated. And they put them on the market and they're wondering why they weren't selling. And we said, well, where are these? One was in Acadia and it backed onto the wall on Blackfoot Trail. And the other one was in Charleswood, backing onto John Laurie Boulevard.
Now, one thing we want to stress to everybody about this couple, they went and spent $20,000 on a flipping seminar course. Okay, so and this is one of the reasons why Tim and I do what we do, because we don't want you to spend that money on those courses. We do this so you don't have to. And secondly, that money could have been used for one of your next properties. So these people actually did this course and then chose these properties. And at the end of the day, they were having a tough time to sell them. And they didn't get the money that they're after because of those 2 factors. They overlooked it. So the rules still apply. Like, you have to work with professionals. It doesn't matter what course you're doing. You have to work with professionals that understand, you know, what someone's going to pay money, you know, what amount they're going to pay for that property at the end of the day. But where are the great locations? We always used to tell people, you know, outside of the boom time. So we've been flipping houses since 2006 for our clients or with our clients. And we can tell you that we've always wanted to look at communities that have renovation bins outside them. So whenever you're driving around, say, Silver Springs or Mount Pleasant or Haysboro or different communities, which we're going to talk about, you actually want to see communities that are turning over. And what we mean by turning over, if you go into a community like Haysboro, you'll go down the streets and you'll see many renovated properties. And the biggest factor that we look at outside of seeing the renovation bins, once we see the renovation bins, we know we're in the right areas. But the biggest thing is you want to find communities that have a spread. And when we talk about the spread, is we talk about looking at unrenovated properties, the grandma's house, compared to fully renovated properties. So you need that spread there. And the biggest factor is finding a spread within a 3-month period. Okay, you can't take a renovated property from 3 years ago and hope to repeat that. You want to take comps within the last 3 months, because then you know it's achievable. Okay, and then, you know, that will also tell a story on Tim. We've seen in Haysboro, they'll go in and put an extension on, and then we've seen a bungalow in there the other day getting 1.1 million. I mean, in Fairview right now, we're going to be listing a renovated property in the next 3 months. That's probably going to come on for $750,000. And that is unheard of in Fairview. But this year, we've already seen sales over 700,000. And we know that this property can demand such a high price because it's better. So you want to see the results from within that community. And if you're looking at condos, like condos right now, for people out there that may be on a budget, condos are the best thing to flip right now because it's affordable to get in. The renovation costs aren't huge to renovate a whole 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo. If you're doing the work yourself, we've seen it done under 30,000. If you're paying someone else, you could probably add another 12,000 to that, depending on the specs you're going with. So not huge renovation costs. And there's a massive, massive spread in condos right now from brand new, a brand new condo, 2-bedroom, roughly 1 bathroom, 2 bathrooms, is selling brand new for 650,000 plus, maybe up to 800,000, depending on the views. And an unrenovated condo is selling around the 250 mark. So there is a massive, massive spread between old and new in condos. And there's a massive demand for people to buy condos because interest rates have gone up. People just can't afford to live because of the inflation. So they're going to choose a cheap property. That's where the demand is right now. So if you give them everything they want, that we're talking about, quartz countertops, vinyl plank flooring, freshly painted, bright and spacious, a big island, a wow factor in there could be, we're just talking about, could be a home theater, it could be a wine fridge, you know, a young person that's just moved in with their girlfriend and having friends over. I know when I was young, I lived in Lower Mount Royal, and I used to have people over all the time because 17th Ave is right there. So if you have those little features that make it cool, you know, a gas fireplace, and the fireplaces, Tim, these days, you can get electric ones. It doesn't have to be gas, and they're really, really cool. So there's different features you can put in, but getting back to the condos, that's a whole nother segment of investing or flipping condos, because there's different areas that we like to call boutique areas that have, say, height restrictions. So one of them would be Mount Royal or Lower Mount Royal. Lower Mount Royal, there's no more land. So whatever they build in there, if there's new condos going in there right
You
now,
gotta tear something down.
they got to tear something down. So the land cost to get in there is just through the roof. So once again, if they build new in there, they're going to be 650, 750, 850 plus. But the older ones, and there's plenty of older ones in there that are good size, because when they used to build them back in the day, they were bigger units, right? When they're building now, they build small. So if you can go in there and give people a property that looks good and the building's well maintained, and there's many other pockets. There's Marta Loop, there's Kensington, there's Bridgeland, even Inglewood. There's pockets in there that the young people like to live in. So we'll get into different areas for different people.
So when we're talking about communities, you know, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, we're not limiting that to just, you know, the ones up the Crowchild Trail or down McLeod Trail. Even the Northeast, we're starting to see our flippers have some success in. If you go up the C train line, you'll see communities like Whitehorn and Rundle and Marlborough and Pine Ridge. Those communities are fit within this age. You know, they were 70s, maybe late 60s in some of them. But while we're not seeing, you know, the large, huge sale prices at the end of the renovation, it's cheaper to get in. So we're having people get into these properties in Marlborough and Rundle in the low 5s to high 5s. And if you do your renovation, you're not going to sell it at 800,000 or 900,000, but you can still make a healthy profit if you control your costs. They're selling upwards of, you know, close to 700,000 for a renovated property.
And don't get us wrong with the Northeast. I mean, there's some great communities up there. I was in Rundle the other day showing a property. That was one of the properties we missed out on. They had an unconditional offer. The young guy we're working with, his parents want him to have conditions. So people have different circumstances. And anyway, we were on a street in Rundle, and the whole street, you look down and you can see every house was looked after, you know? So there's different pockets in the Northeast. We know that the Northeast, over the years, you know, a lot of people wouldn't go there and invest. I know when we started off investing over 20 years ago, we owned a bunch of properties up there. And we want to stress that the Northeast is going to actually take off, and it's going to take off for a reason. It's because everywhere else is too expensive. So people are going to be forced to go up there, and they're going to love it because they're already upgrading things around there. I think they got a Chipotle up there. They always seem to get the first big restaurant that comes into town. I think Popeyes, the first time they came here, they were in the Northeast. There's a Filipino chain that came. I think the first one went to the northeast. So they get everything up there. And guess what? You jump on the C train, you could be all the way up in Whitehorn, and you could be downtown in 12 to 15 minutes. I mean, people coming from BC, coming from Ontario, they're going to catch on to this, and they're going to be like thinking, what are Calgarians talking about? You know, so we already see that. We're already investing in the Northeast right now because we see the prices going up 100 to 150,000, and renovating on a good street could be really, really beneficial. But getting back to these 1950s, 1960s, 1970s homes, you know what, Tim? At the end of the day, you want to find a property that has been well looked after. This is what we're looking for as investment focused realtors. We're looking for properties that have been upgraded. We just bought one in Marlborough last week, and at the end of the day, the windows were already
It was an
redone.
original owner, so they had lived there for like 45 years.
They lived there, and it was a Cedar Glen home. It was one of the original Cedar Glen homes. Okay, but these people, they updated the furnace. They updated the hot water tank. They updated all the windows, and they updated the roof. Okay, they're your biggest ticket items. So as investors, you want to find these properties that have some of those ticket items already taken care of. So you just go in and do the rest. If they're taken care of, and I think it had a new panel. I can't even remember now, but maybe that one did and it didn't. So that property to be flipped, people will want to see that it's got a new panel, new electrical throughout. And so we're always looking at properties that we call them grandma's home. If you've read our book, Fearless Real Estate, we have a whole chapter on finding the right flip. But we always try and find those owners that, you know, the property's been looked after.
Yeah, and one more thing before we flip the slide on the Northeast is, as everybody knows, it's very, very ethnically diverse. So if investors want to invest in communities with, you know, their own people that look like them, people of their own religion or whatever, you know, you can find everything in the Northeast. We had a young East Indian couple that bought a half duplex in Falcon Ridge, was it? They didn't want to go, you know, anywhere down south. They wanted to be in Falcon Ridge because, you know, tons of their community lived around there and they were more comfortable with it. They were going to rent out to another East Indian family, and it just worked for them. So, you know, by limiting yourself to one area of the city, or, you know, you need to understand that Calgary is becoming more and more diverse as the years go on. And, you know, if you're open to that, the Northeast is a great place to invest because of its ethnic diversity.
Yeah. Okay, I think we got the map coming up next.
No, well, we could get back to that.
Yeah.
But you also want to look at what's going on within these communities, the development trends. Do you see small apartment buildings going up? Are there strip malls being renovated? Have the streets been, you know, have they been done any calming things to the streets, put speed bumps in and things like that? What is the city doing to that community? And also the zoning regulations. Now, we're gonna not get too much into zoning right now because the proposed zoning changes to the whole city, they're not in effect yet, and the city is getting a whole lot of blowback. So what's gonna happen there, we don't really know. What they were supposed to do is allow multifamily building anywhere in the city. So RC1 would have gone away. Some of the very, very expensive communities like Mount Royal and Eagle Ridge and those types of communities, they don't want anything to do with it. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to stop it. The issue is that our mayor signed an agreement with the federal government that to get funding for new housing in this particular program, we had to eliminate single family zoning. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's still some time. But what you want to do is work with the existing zoning, because that's what we have on the books right now. And if you're looking to maybe, you know, turn a single family home into two homes, or, you know, have the secondary suite in the basement and have its own RC1S, you have to make sure that that's allowable under the current guidelines.
And at the end of the day, when you are flipping, you have to look at what price points in the market are moving. So we all know right now, anything under 600,000, it's not going to be on the market very long. Okay, so you want to be in a healthy price point that's moving. If you're renovating in the upper end, how long are those properties sitting for? And the reason why I bring this up is you have to understand that some communities just get too expensive. Like we used to buy a lot of properties in Acadia, Fairview, and now we can't even find properties in our price points for our clients. Where is the average buyer buying? These days it's between 550 and 650,000, and so we can't even find anything in some of these communities, even if they want a renovated home.
Yeah.
So you have to look at spillover communities, and we talk about this in depth in other seminars. Which are the next communities that will go up? And we're already seeing a place like Ogden. Now, Ogden before, you would never see, Tim, properties in there renovated. You seen one the other day that was absolutely, like, it was $750,000 or something in Ogden. And we just couldn't believe it. And so we're not saying be the first, okay? Because that's when you can get caught out. But if Acadia is too expensive and Ogden is 5 minutes away, buyers are going to think about going there and spending the same amount of money in Ogden than they would in Acadia. So we want to stress that, and this happens all over the city, like in Bowness. And I'll just quickly talk about Bowness and Montgomery on reasons why they're not good to renovate these homes. They're better off
Tearing down.
And a couple of reasons is that they're older properties. Okay, they've had flood issues there. And some of the basements in these properties, they're what we call dugout basements. So they're actually not a full basement. And the properties, Tim, for some reason, we're in a number of them just the other day. They're like, what do you call it? Like,
well, they're 100 years old and they've had addition and addition and addition and addition. So you don't even really know where one addition begins and another ends. They're just sort of a hodgepodge that was put together over 100 years.
Yeah, we were in one that had 3 different additions on it. And it was on a triangle lot. So straight away, the lot didn't appeal to us because you couldn't sell it to a developer later on. And then they had updated this home over time, but because it was 3 different kind of, additions, it's just a very hard sell. And they're asking top dollar for it. And the realtor was asking me, did you guys have any interest? And I said, unfortunately, we didn't. And unfortunately, people have to realize these people have renovated it over time, but they've poured money into something that they're not going to probably get that money out. So you can sometimes overspend if you're just doing renovations over time. This is not for flipping, but you have to really pick the right property, what appeals to people the most. So areas like Montgomery and Bowness, it's very, very hard to flip in there just because of the different kind of styles of homes you get and the types of basements you get. And then you get into areas like Altadore or South Calgary, where the homes are too expensive. Those homes, those lots aren't great for flipping. You don't go in there and see many homes that have been flipped because the price point to get in and then renovate, it's just too expensive.
Yeah, if you were to get, a grandma's home that's 1,000 square foot bungalow in Altadore on a nice street on a 50-foot lot, you're paying $800,000-900,000 for that for an original bungalow. So like Bowness and like Montgomery, the builders are going in there and just tearing them down and putting up either 2 side-by-sides or a single family home.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions in the chat or in the room, one question is, when these communities built in the 50s, 70s have blanket rezoning from single house to row houses, how do you see it will impact property prices in those communities? So we just think it's just going to drive those single family homes up even more. Just because what happens at the end of the day, building costs have gone up. Hiring people if they can find them, that's the problem. They can't find people to build as many homes as we need, so it's not going to happen. Even if all this rezoning happens, it's just going to make it more expensive for those single family lots down the road.
Yeah, and if you see those 4 and the 5 plexes being put up, there's a lot of them in Cambrian Heights, Banff Trail. There's some of them on the west side, Killarney, Ross Carrick. They're putting them up on a corner lot, and they'll put 4 townhouses in there. it's not like these are gonna bring property values down because they're expensive to buy anyways. It's gonna cost you 600,000 for each unit. So it's not gonna bring, all this low income housing in there. They're expensive to buy. It's just gonna densify the communities. And people are getting ticked off because it's gonna take away some of their parking. These people in these older neighborhoods, they might have 2 cars in their garage and they like the 2 spots out in front of their house to park extra cars. So it's something that we're gonna have to deal with as the city gets bigger and bigger. We've already done a few things. The N3 building, which went up in the East Village, it was the first condo building in the city of Calgary with no parking. So we are doing these, and there's a lot of those kind of units going up in Toronto, where there's no parking garage underneath the thing. And these people, they either take transit or they walk, or they have to find an off-site garage to park their car if they own a car. So that's just one of the facts of life once our city is getting bigger and bigger. But as far as those infills and the higher density buildings bringing the cost or the price of real estate down in the newer community or in the communities that they're going to be in, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. There's too many people moving here for that to happen. We don't have enough housing, and the amount of housing that they're saying we need, there is we can build that. So like that is not going to go anywhere for some time.
Yeah, and if anyone's got a question about a specific community, whether it's good to put infills in or to do renovations in or not, by all means, send us an email. You can put it in the chat here too, but we will give our opinion on every specific community and whether it works or not. But what we are seeing is in most of the older communities, there's renovations going on right now. Like there won't be any of the older communities where there's no action going on. The new communities, yes, because why would you renovate a home that's 10 years old? Some people do it, but it's very infrequent.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, it really comes down to your price point. So, if you only have so much money for a deposit and for renovations, then really when we work with clients, Tim, that's the first thing we work out. And then we understand exactly where they should be in investing in real estate with flipping houses. And, at the end of the day, we work out what profit margin they want, depending on, again, the deposit and the amount of renovations that they could take on with the amount of cash they got. And then we always strive to actually work the numbers backwards. So that's where we're a little different, is we will actually calculate the after renovation value, that's the ARV, and then we'll work out exactly what the renovation budget is. I don't know if Alejandro is on the call tonight, but he just bought a flip property in Silver Springs. And we can just talk about Alejandro. He's been following us, Tim, for a number of years now. He used to come to our seminars in person, and he actually uses hard money to renovate his homes. And so you have to be experienced, and we'll just quickly talk about hard money. Normally it's borrowed out at 10 to 12%. And I really want to stress, it's not hard to raise funds through people that especially with the way the market is these days. It's not hard to raise money on your own as well, just because the market's doing so well, and you could show people exactly what you're going to do, what the profit margins are, and we walk all of our clients through that. But Alejandro, he's actually, when does he take possession? I think at the end of this month or mid-month.
Yeah, mid-month.
And so he'll be going in, renovating. We picked it up roughly 550.
655.
655. Sorry, yeah, Silver Springs 655, and then we're hoping to spend under 100,000 on that property, and then the after renovation value will be over $100,000 more. So it's all about sticking to your budget
And your timeline.
And his timeline, Tim, is under 3 months, and that's doing it with hard money.
Okay, so we got a question in the quote, Marlboro for a slow flip. Is it okay for a rental? Funny thing is our first example is a bungalow in Marlboro, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll show you the exact numbers of what the renovators got, and then someone else commented on. Can you give insights into Sundance, Midnapore, Shaughnessy? Is it beneficial to do flipping in these communities? Of course. Sundance and Midnapore, those are 2 communities. They were 80s, some even up into the early 90s, but they're both lake communities down south. So if you go through Sundance, everything that was original is gonna have like blue shag or blue carpet. Everything's blonde oak, the blonde oak cabinets in the kitchen, the railings, the baseboards, the trim, everything will be that. They are just ripe for renovations, and the renovators that are in there are making huge profits because the houses are big. They are a lake community. They're close to Fish Creek Park. There's right at the end of the C train line there. It's got everything going for it. Shaughnessy, not so much.
Yeah.
There's pockets of it. But if you want to stick to those three communities, I'd do the two lake communities.
And one reason why Tim's saying Shaughnessy, not too much, and Evergreen and little pockets like that, the houses are too big. Once you get to a two-story, you need so much money to renovate those things. We would rather stick to bungalows, so we're really going to go into areas like that. There's no way we would do all the Fairview property coming up is a 4-level split. But you know what? We wouldn't do a 4-level split or 2 stories. It's just too much money to renovate. And I could tell you a story about a property I have in Minnepore. At one end of the street is Fish Creek Park. At the other end of the street is the lake. We picked it up for, I think, Tim, I paid a lot for that, $450. $450 for it. And then we put a legal suite in. And I just want to talk quickly about legal suites. We've legalized basement suites, and this could be a quick reno for people that want to make a quick buck. We've legalized a basement suite for as little as $2,500. I mean, and when you legalize a basement suite, people will pay a premium for that legalized basement suite. They will actually pay $50,000 to $60,000 more, even more in this market for a legal basement suite or a property that's being legalized. And it doesn't even have to have massive renovations. But I legalized a Minnepore bungalow. I bought it for $450, but it was fully renovated upstairs, which was beautiful. And then we put in a brand new suite in the basement. It cost $50,000, $60,000. And you know what, at the time, Tim, we were like, geez, you know, it's a lot of money. We're into this property for $510. The rent's always covered its costs, so I never worried about that. And now that property, when I'm looking at the property selling in Minnepore, it would be close $650,000 to $700,000. That's what the property will be worth. So, you know what, renovating in those areas, I can definitely tell you that it is worth it. And because those communities have that wow factor. I mean, McLeod Trail now with the bridges over McLeod Trail, you can get anywhere, anywhere you want to go. I mean, people actually will go further down south on McLeod Trail and go to the brand new shopping down there to do their groceries. So, because it's so easy to get down there. Yeah.
There's another question. Isn't capital gains tax determined by whether you, whoa, you're coming too fast here. How long do you have to live in a property before you don't have to pay the capital gains tax? The thing about if you live in a property to renovate it, what the Revenue Canada looks at really isn't, you know, how long you've lived in it. It's what your intentions were when you moved in. So if you move in and you start living in the community and maybe your kids go to school or there, if you live there, generally it's 1 year to keep them off your back. And there's no hard and fast rule about how long you have to be there, but make sure that you keep all of your receipts, keep all of your, because they're going to want to see that, you know, the utility bill is in your name. They're going to want to see that you're paying the taxes on the house. By living in it, it's really, it has to be kind of a private conversation.
Yeah. Just send us an email with that one. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're doing more than one a year.
Yeah, if you're doing more than one a year, you'll probably get flagged by the CRA.
Yeah.
If you're doing just one a year, even if you do that 2-3 years in a row, you'll get flagged. So you kind of have to set it up so that you're actually living in it, right?
Yeah. And if you are planning on doing this full time, as the people on the front of the meetup for this session, they're full-time renovators.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff and Susan Walters, they, you know, that's what they do for a living. They came to us about 3 years ago. Tim came to one of our sessions, just like you guys here. We actually bought them a property off the market. That's what we do for our clients. We had another investor have a rental property that got really run down, really run down, and Jeff and Susan picked it up, and they actually came to us. We got another investor, one of our investors, to lend them $100,000, and they did a joint venture. So one person got the financing, one person paid for the renovation costs, and they split $150,000 8 months later. So that's what we do for our clients. Someone's asking about Cedar Brae, Braeside, Woodbine. Don't tell anyone about Woodbine. We think it's the biggest secret in Calgary. It's one of the best spots to go and invest in, just because you got Fish Creek Park there. As soon as they built Stony Trail, you can get anywhere in the city on Stony Trail. And, you know, we've been in Cedar Brae and Woodbine and Braeside. With what's happening, with one of our investors works for the Tazo group. That's the group that's building all that stuff on the Indian land near the Costco. There's actually 3 different sections of that. When that's complete, and I could tell you, Tazo group just hired the president from the guy who was in charge when they built the university district, because the Tazo group was stalling and it's been taking time to get it fully operational. We can definitely tell you in the next year and a half, massive things are going to happen on the west side of the city, and living in any of those communities along there.
Yeah, and you can see what I've circled there, those communities on the west side there, where it says Krebs Community Map, that white rectangle there, that's the Tsutsina Reserve. So you're not going to see Calgary move any further west in that pocket there. So that's going to kind of force appreciation in the communities that are butting up against it, because as time goes on, these things are almost, they become closer to inner city. So their prices are going to move up. They're all spillover communities. They're still affordable to get into there. Well, except for maybe parts of Oak Ridge and Palliser, but most of those ones are affordable to get into. You can do flips in them. They're great for rental properties. And just by being boxed in by the Indian Reserve, if there's nowhere to go but up. And this other part down here, this part right there, that's where the newer communities are going to go. And that's quite a hike, even with the ring road to get downtown. There's already one community going in right here, right on the edge of the ring road. There's communities are going to go way out there, and that's really, really far away from the downtown area.
Yeah, I'll talk about the west side just quickly for everybody. So we're talking really east of Sarcee Trail. You have a bunch of community along Sarcee. You have the 3 Glens, Glendale, Glenbrook, and Glenmorgan. And then you have Wildwood, Westgate. Those areas, you have Ross Currick you have to worry a little bit about, because there's some low-income housing there. So you really have to understand where you're buying in Ross Currick. But those other communities backing onto Sarcee, there's one reason why it's really going to do well over the years. You are paying a higher amount to get in, but those renovations, you're seeing properties sell for 1.1, over 1.1 now. And the main reason being is, as soon as you go on the west side over Sarcee on the west side, it's very expensive to get up on that hill. Not all the private schools, but a lot of the private schools are up there. You got Weber Academy, you got Rundle College, and then you got the French school up there, Calgary French International School. So you have 3 very good schools up there, and people who have a lot of money send their kids to those schools and live up on that hill. And then you get people, Tim, that grew up in the area and just want to live close by too. You have the C train running downtown. You could be down there in 12 minutes. We've actually put people in there in the last year in Westgate, just because we see the amount of renovations going on in a community like that. Going on the north, you want to go on this side. What are the spillover communities to there? So, okay, I'll give you a spillover community on the west side up on the hill. One would definitely be Coach Hill, Patterson, parts of Strathcona. These communities were built back in the 80s, really. And you get these older homes. Once again, you got to watch out on the size. But up in Coach Hill, we always say if you want to do an estate flip or in Christie Park, one just sold, we were just looking at it. They bought it for something like just under 800,000 and they just sold for 1.270. So they did a full renovation on a big home. That's a $500,000 lift ARV on an estate home. And why would someone spend that much money on a 30-year-old home? It's because they made it look exactly like the homes in Aspen. Okay, they made it look exactly the same. They even went to the extent where they redid the stucco on the outside to give it that contemporary look. They changed windows, they changed everything, right? So on the west side, there are a few pockets in there where if you go in, but once again, it's more expensive to buy in there, but and really what you're looking at is size. So if it's a 4 or 5 bedroom home, and 2,600 square feet plus, those homes in Aspen, okay, start at $2 million. So there's a massive difference from buying, original condition in those areas for 900,000 and renovate. Yes, you have to have a bigger budget, but if you want to make that spread, that's where the big renovators are right now. Moving to the north side, just quickly, you've got the hospital, you've got the university, you're paying top dollar to get anywhere near there. That's why we're stressing, but there are some hidden little communities up in the northwest. There's McEwen, there's Beddington. Beddington, you just have to watch out because some of the areas, streets in Beddington, it gets very congested when you're driving in there. Like there's too many cars there because there's too many people living. They're all suited basements in there or something. So Beddington, you really got to be picky. But McEwen can be beautiful because you got Nose Hill right there where people want to live close to. There's that little pocket, Tim, that North Haven. If you guys should drive as investors. You guys should be driving around the city and looking. I didn't know North Haven that well, but there are some nice streets up in North Haven. You're directly north of, or you're just on the northeast side of Nose Hill Park. But that's a great pocket. You could be downtown in 10, 15 minutes.
So why do we call them spillover communities? We had that question because the communities that are closer into the core became too expensive to be even rental properties or to do flips in. So, Winston Heights or Capitol Hill, those we used to be putting our clients in there to buy rental properties, 15, 20 years ago. Now they're too expensive. They're upwards of $1 million. So you're not going to buy that and be able to cash flow by putting a tenant in there. So the spillover communities are the next ones over, the next communities further away from downtown that become affordable and become more attractive for renters and for landlords to buy in there. Some of these communities, we would talk about them. It was funny because we'd be sitting in the office 20 years ago going, we'll never put anybody in that community. It's run down or whatever. But as the communities closer to downtown got more and more expensive, we had to move further out just to make the numbers work.
Yeah, question. Yes, so Greenview, great question. Okay. You didn't just sell a property Greenview, did you? Okay.
That was one of the communities that we would stay away.
Yeah, so okay, the question was for everyone at home, what about Greenview? So Greenview's locked in. I think Thorncliffe's around there, and then what would be on it's the
industrial area.
Yeah, Manchester Park. So we just bought a place in Greenview. Okay, just last month. Gee, she gave us a hard time to buy it. So we want to explain this property in Greenview. And our client's going in to renovate, but he's going to hold on to it. It's such a big half duplex. We paid $540 for it. And the reason why we got this property is because it had terrible tenants. Terrible. When we say terrible,
each one had 3 big dogs.
Yeah, 3 big dogs. And they had to get the dogs out for us to see. I'm scared of dogs, right? I just send Tim in there whenever that happens. But anyway, our client, he came to us, he just lives in Winston Heights. So we would be buying in Winston Heights, just around the corner from there. And he wanted to be close to his rental property. And we knew this half duplex, the other half of it, they both came up. We knew that one sold for $550. So we knew we could get a little bit of a discount on our one, even though they're the same. And we bought in there. We stayed away from there because about 15 years ago, Tim and I went in there to look at a house. And for some reason, that night before, every car on the street got windows broken. And I was like, geez, okay. And then there used to be a hotel.
It was the airport or something. They turned that into
low-income housing.
It's like a men's shelter or something like that.
Yeah.
So that kept the property prices down, but there's not all kinds of crime flowing from that, which some of the community members thought would. So what you're seeing is Greenview, all its tiny little community, people are renovating in there, and those communities are on big 50-foot lots, or the houses are on big 50-foot lots. They're good, you can get good tenants in there, so it's a good rental community now.
The trick with Greenview, not many people will search it when they're renting, because they all don't draw a map, right? They'll put Thorncliffe. So what you do is you just name it Thorncliffe. So that's our little trick for people at home. If you're in a community, like we have to do this sometimes, like Vista Heights, no one knows where Vista Heights is. They know where Malin Heights is, right? So sometimes we just name it on Rent Faster, and then when the people come to see the property, they kind of work it out. Yeah, but it's right around the corner, so it's fine. So that's a little trick about Greenview. We believe in it, as Tim said. If it's got the size and you're not paying too much, all these areas.
As long as it's not right on Edmonton Trail, you're good.
Yeah, and so no. And you'll see those areas turn around very quickly, and that's what you see when in an up market. So in an up market, in the last year, in the last 2 years, we've really seen Bowness do really well. And I got in trouble, in one of our first seminars, what they call
There's a lot of riffraff.
Yeah, I said there's a lot of riffraff in Bowness, and I got an email the next day, and it wasn't pleasant. I'll be honest, okay? And there was a lot of riffraff back in the day. I mean, the bikies were in there.
Yeah, there was a
Hells Angels, right? So there was a lot of, but guess what's happening in Bowness now? And same as Ogden, same thing as Ogden, right? And I owned property in Ogden before.
Ogden had the other motorcycle.
Yeah, had the others. So anyway, that's all been cleaned up now. You're going to see Ogden take off, and Ogden once again has different types of housing. So like Bowness, so you just got to watch what you're getting in there. But those lots are really built for, tearing down later on and building. So other pockets, we will go now to the northeast. We love anywhere along the C train line in the northeast. We love those pockets. And once again, when you're up there, you just have to look at the different streets and see who's looking after their houses, and if you look at the nice streets and you see one there, like we did on the weekend, there was one in Rundle, it went unconditional. Daniel missed out on it. We put an offer in at 550, got listed 530. We went in at 550 with conditions. It sold unconditional, and I haven't gone back on to check. But Whitehorn, Rundle, coming down to Marlborough, there's some really good streets in there. Now let's talk about the iffy neighborhoods just quickly. And we know people are renovating in there. Oh, we're going to get.
No, we got to get to that quick.
Yeah, we got to get to quick. Just quickly, there are some iffy neighborhoods. One is Forest Lawn, as we know. The other one is Southview. Southview does have beautiful streets, but at the end of the day, you are very close to 17th Ave, where there is prostitution, there is druggies. There are rehab centers. There are safe injection sites there. So there are a lot of low-income housing. When you have this, you just have to be aware of exactly where you're at. Okay.
Let me just see if I can draw it.
Tim will draw it for everyone there. And so that is going into the east side of the city. We are just so
all those communities in there, they're so close to downtown that eventually they're going to be gentrified. They're going to have tons of renovations and infills going in there. You see it now and then, but the renovators aren't getting the profits that they're looking for. The people who tear property down and put in infills, they're not getting the profits that they're looking for. We worked with a guy who tore old Forest Lawn house down and put up 2 infills, and he just broke even. And these were brand new houses. They were 1,700 square foot, 2 stories with developed basements and a detached garage, and he didn't make any money on it.
Yeah, and to be honest, and we know who bought that. It was someone from Toronto who just saw the proximity to downtown. So people are speculating, and when you see renovators get caught out, we would rather take that risk away from you, because if the market turns, people will shut the door on some of those communities straight away, just because they have that, what do you say, Tim? They're just known to have problems.
Yeah, and
So
it's
stigma. They have a stigma
probably
about it.
get cleaned up, but it's gonna take some years for that to happen.
And don't get me wrong, renovators are making money in there right now. We would put our clients that know what they're doing into those communities. We just wouldn't put newbies in there. Just quickly going down south, there's Deer Run, there's Bonavista Downs. Communities like that, Queensland is going crazy right now. And why is it going crazy? Because you got Fish Creek Park around it, Lake Bonavista Downs. Your neighboring community is Lake Bonavista. I mean, Tim lives there. It's called God's country for a reason. So you know what? It's going to continue to go up just because a spillover is from Lake Bonavista. And
Yeah,
Tim, what's going on in Lake Bonavista now?
I had 2 properties in Lake Bonavista Downs and I sold them years ago. And I'm kicking myself now because the average price in Lake Bonavista Downs is about $650,000. And forever and ever and ever, it was stuck around 400,000. It wouldn't move up, it wouldn't move up. And now we get through this price hike and guys are making a killing in there. So that's a spillover community. Like you said, Queensland, Deer Run, Deer Ridge, and even a little further south, what we talked about those lake communities, but those are good pockets down south. Now we're going very, very overtime here. So what we want to do is we'll get into some examples. Now, as promised, we were talking about Marlborough. This is a recent flip in Marlborough. They bought it at the end of last year and they ended up selling it just recently, March 28th. So if you look at this property, we'll go through pictures of what they did to it. There's the exterior right there. What we try to tell people is if the house looks older, like the picture on the left, the original bungalow that it was, they didn't do a whole lot to the outside other than paint that brick and put in, I don't even know if that's hardy board. I think they just repaired the siding and painted that as well. So if you look at that house, not much was done to the outside other than a sort of a lipstick renovation. So you don't really need to change the outside of the house if you're in a neighborhood like Marlborough, because you're not going to end up getting 800,000 for this house when you sell it.
You can see the roof was done already. So see what we're talking about. If something's done, you're going to save on a big ticket item. I mean, that's probably, I just did a roof in Tuscany, $8,000.
Yeah, and these guys didn't even do the front steps. I mean, it's an older patio stone kind of thing. They didn't do it because you don't have to in this market. The kitchen, of course, it's got to be totally done. It looks like they just gutted it. And if you look at the features they have in the kitchen there, everybody has pendant lights. They can be a different design, but there's pendant lights over the central island. And you'll see every single renovation has these things. Right now, they're two-colored, the two-tone in the cabinets. So underneath the island there, it's a darker color. Up top, you've got the white cabinets. The hood fan also matches the island.
Yeah. And then you can see the pot lights as well, which is huge. Lighting is huge. Now these days they're doing LED strips and stuff like that. I mean, and it's not expensive, but it looks really, really good.
Yeah. Living room, again, they kept that fireplace there. They just painted it.
Yeah.
So, you know, these big rooms, they're the most inexpensive rooms to change out. It's just flooring the baseboards, put some pot lights in the ceiling. I think they scraped the stipple off of there to get rid of the popcorn. But it's a basic reno there. Bathroom, same thing. You're changing your vanity, your tub, shower, and your toilet.
And that tile, it's from Home Depot. It's so cheap to get. It's like $2. What do you call it?
Panel.
Yeah. It's really cheap and it looks really classy.
Okay, the basement, this house, it was unfinished. What they did is they put a suite in there. And to go very inexpensive with a basement suite, they just got the bank of cabinets along one wall. You don't have to get fancy with your kitchen on a basement suite, in the Northeast especially. So, you know, it was simple to do.
And just quickly on that basement suite for everyone out there, they don't legalize them. We see this all the time. They renovate and they don't legalize them. So buyer beware. Okay. So when the buyer comes to buy it and it's an illegal suite, they'll buy it. And if their realtor doesn't know that if it's a brand new kitchen when they're buying it and they want to make it legal and they go to the city now, the cost is horrendous. Okay, so that's why these renovators, they won't legalize it. And there's nothing wrong with that. They can do that. okay? But if a buyer's, we know, if a buyer's buying it and they want to make that a legal suite, it would be another 20 to 25,000 just with HVAC and furnaces and separate heating. There's a whole bunch of stuff that has to be done. So they'll put it in and it will probably sell for more because it's got the legal suite. It's a mortgage helper. So buyer beware on that one.
So looking,
Like, so, yeah. Stipulation for everything, so it's a net new vehicles,
Yeah,
no,
like, the city's got.
they just call it a wet bar.
yeah.
They call it a wet bar.
They may not have even got permits for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that maybe it did get permits, but they didn't put the stove in. You know what I mean? And now the stove's in, it's an illegal suite. So,
Yeah, so these are the actual numbers off of the MLS. The purchase price was 438,500. 6 months, rental costs 110. They sold it for 626. So their profit wasn't, it wasn't 100,000 or anything, but 77,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And they're putting that basement suite in because they had to do the plumbing and things like that, and it was unfinished to begin with. That would have been, quite a bit of the cost right there. So they still made a healthy profit, but you see the sale price, that's Marlboro, right? You're not going to sell for 800,000 in there. So you have to sort of temper your expectations and temper your renovation costs, right? Moving on to the next one, we've got, this is the one that you found in Haysboro. So we'll go to the pictures here. Again, they changed the front look of the house. Now, what these renovators do is they'll change the front of the house and then they'll just paint the side and the back, right? So you don't, as long as it has a good curb appeal from the front street, you're gonna get your price that you're looking for. Some of the renovators that don't change the front of the house, they're gonna give up some of their profit because it's still gonna look like an older house from the front. Okay, next slide is the kitchen again. They got the center island in there. They've got the pendant lights. Kind of looks like a white kitchen like the last one, right?
yeah, same sort of thing. They went with the mint kind of cabinet,
Yeah.
which I don't even like. But
So here in the living room, it's vinyl plank on the floor. I think that ceiling was, no, it was stipple as well. So they put the pot lights in, new windows. Easy to change those bigger living spaces, easier than the bathrooms in the kitchen. Bathroom, same thing. It looks almost identical to the last one. But it's the white lighter color.
Yeah,
right?
those lights are from Amazon. So, and those fixtures are from IKEA. So, and this is what you got to do, right? You got to find these different kind of fixtures and fittings. And you can do it cheap. Like with Amazon these days and Wayfair and all that stuff, you could do it real cheap.
Yeah, we had a guy who renovated a couple of condos in Arbor Lake. And he bought like a 10-pack of these flat LED lights, put them all throughout the unit. They look good,
awesome.
but it worked out to like $10 a fixture.
Yeah, and that unit would have had the big oyster, lights and really bad and changed it just like that.
The basement, unfortunately, that's the only picture we have of the basement of that big ugly fireplace. But what they did is they put in a little wet bar and then just made it a big open space with a bathroom and a bedroom. Okay, so there, because we're in Haysboro, it was a higher entrance price, $565, but after the reno, $875 is what they got for it. And because they changed the front of the house, they got a little more than what I thought they would have got. So their rental costs were $160 because they did the exterior as well. But they made a very, very good profit. And the thing is that here, the time ate a lot of their profit away. It took them 10 months to do this. So their carrying costs were quite a bit. Okay, the next one, what happened here? The next one was a condo. This was a condo in the Beltline. And there's the front of it. It's a 1970s brick building, but it's got big balconies and it's not on one of the busy streets down there. And here's what they did to this condo.
And we see this a lot.
Yeah.
We see the kitchens closed in when you go into the apartments like this. And these renos, this is doable. If you're just starting off, if people are just starting off and don't want to dive into a huge reno, this is all doable.
Yeah, so the main thing is that that wall in the middle there that the fridge is behind. They've got the island there after the reno, is you have to make sure through the condo board that it's not load bearing. And you have to get their permission if you're taking a wall out. But when you do that, it really opens up the unit and it makes it look very contemporary. But the rest of the kitchen sort of follows the same plan. The stove's in the same place, the hood pan's in the same place. And again, they went with the vinyl plank flooring that just updates the whole unit. Got these covering inside picture. So again, you can see the sliding door is still original. You need condo permission if you're changing out those sliding doors. Generally, they're in the maintenance schedule, so they'll change all the doors, but it might not be scheduled for 10 or 15 years. So they just left it there. And then they just switched out the pendant light, used the same electrical things. They didn't go too many pot lights in there.
Yeah.
Bathroom, you can see it again, it looks, like the last two that we saw. New vanity, new toilet, new shower.
That round mirror comes from IKEA.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
vanities
featured-
probably come from Home Depot, right? Same thing with the toilet. So these guys are picking up the materials themselves. They did go with the pattern tile, which you're starting to see come back.
Yeah,
5 or 6 years ago, it was the white subway tile everywhere. And then they went to the larger size tile. Now you're seeing the patterns come back. I don't know if I would
yeah.
want to do that on a quick flip. Because some buyers might not like it, but they went with it. And same thing with the bedrooms here. They didn't put any extra lighting in there. They used one of those flat
Yeah,
LED
that's-
lights in the
that
corner
light.
there. But it's just a quick makeover of the bedroom with baseboards and flooring. And then looking at their numbers, they got into this property for 250,000 and sold for 342. So it was a quick turnaround, 2 months. They just banged it out. It depends. They probably limit the times you can get in there. Some of them have certain hours. So you can only do it between 8 and 5. They don't want to hear any banging after 5, but it depends on every single condo. So they made a very healthy profit in 2 months. The thing about the condos too is how fast you can get in there, what your access is, what your contractor's schedule is. You got to schedule them in to get them in there quick.
Yeah.
So those are the numbers you see on a condo. And for people doing 2, 3, 4 of these a year, it really works out.
Yeah, and on a condo, if you're doing some of the work yourself, you save on that 40%. So it is doable, even in this market,
Yeah.
picking up a property for 250 and flipping it out. I think we've even seen them go higher than that. We just want to show you the most recent flips that we can find for you. So, yeah, keep going.
This one says 2 months, so there must be some capital gains tax involved. Yes. Yeah, so the question in the chat was capital gains tax, yes, if you're just flipping out a property like that. But with your capital gains tax, if you're running a business that has other rental properties in it, you're doing other flips, you have other expenses, it's not like you're just going to take that 25% off the top. There are ways to whittle away at that if you run a real estate investment business.
Yeah, capital gains normally ends up being less than that.
Yeah.
Okay, as we promised you, we're over time. Sorry for everyone in the room and at home. We're really sorry, but just quickly, I'm going to speed through this. We know there's been a lot of new people tonight as well. As we promised you, our free ebook, 1 Million Reasons to Buy Real Estate. Simply go on crewinvesting.com. That's our website, and you can download that book. It's a must. It gives you the core fundamentals of investing in real estate, which you should really understand.
It's a great start. Just download it. It's free. It's got all the information in it there. Next thing.
Yep.
Fearless Real Estate.
Yeah, we wrote this during COVID. We're proud of it. It goes over a lot of what our clients have been doing over the years. It goes through raising capital to invest with. It goes through doing joint ventures. It has a whole section on flipping houses and breaks down what kind of renovations. It just breaks down what we did tonight, but even into more detail and a lot more chapters in there as well. Next thing is our Calgary Real Estate Wealth membership. This helps people actually get into becoming a landlord and getting their properties managed very, very cheaply. It also comes with all of the mentorship that you could ever need to invest in real estate. There's over 100 hours of content. We have a cancel anytime policy. We're not here to take money from you. We basically want to help you guys move forward and start making money from real estate. You don't have to do that. People do work with us and want to do it on your own, but use us as your realtors. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, we don't push it on anybody, but it does go through all the real estate investment strategies. It's got all of our forms and guides. It's got our full landlord kit in there. So it's got tons and tons of information. If you're a beginner, we suggest it. If you're a little bit more experienced, just working with us is fine.
Yeah. Next thing, you might want to go on our YouTube channel. It is Calgary Real Estate Wealth or Crew TV. You can find it. And we actually interview people that are following our systems, and we actually go over how much money they're making and what kind of strategies they're using. It's definitely worth checking
Yeah,
out.
it's their stories and their words, and they're telling us how, they've been successful in real estate. And you can see a lot of them are young people. We also interview people who are a little bit older, who, got into the game, real estate investment game a little later. But everyone is seeing great success, especially in this market.
Okay, if you want to move forward with investing in real estate, best thing to do, we'll have our email addresses coming up soon. Just send us an email. That is the best way to get hold of us. Tell your friends about us. We have over 6,000 investors on Meetup now. We'd like to continue to grow that. We will be back in 2 weeks with another topic, and we hope to see you then. We will be on time. We will stay on time next week. It just went overboard. But thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks
in
to
the
the
room.
people in the room.
And if you are at home and you want to come down, we had some people come down that haven't come down before. Thank you for coming down, guys, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.